Welcome to the Oklahoma Mises Caucus podcast. I'm Kaylin Wiggins, a state organizer for the Oklahoma Mises Caucus. If you don't already know about the Mises Caucus, we are a group within the Libertarian Party that focuses on free market economics, ending the wars, decentralization, and we love Ron Paul. Natalie Bruno, Oklahoma Libertarian candidate for governor, joined us this month. She talked to us about her campaign, her busy weekend coming up with Spike Cohen. Then she answered some questions, and it was a good episode. You can check her out at electnataliebruno.com. We appreciate her coming on, and we appreciate you for listening or watching. If you want to learn more about the Mises Caucus, please visit takehumanaction.com, and you can now join the OKLP for as little as $3 a month at oklp.org. That's incredible value. I can't believe we're doing that. Now let's join Natalie Bruno, already in progress, because I forgot to start the recording on time, as usual. Enjoy the show.
After we had already gotten our permits is when they had announced the new execution dates, and then everything with Julius Jones, if you guys follow that story at all. So it went from probably around 30 to 60 people coming to probably well over 100, with all of those other entities joining in with us. So it's going to be a great thing to come to. Spike's going to be speaking. I'm going to be speaking. Will's going to be speaking. And then we also have a documentary group that is going to be coming. That'll be there at Axe Throwing and at my dinner, which will be Saturday night, as well, documenting. They're doing a bit about people who are fighting for liberty and freedom across the United States. And so they're going to be in and recording that as well. And then the dinner on Saturday evening will be at Will Rogers Theater at 6. And Spike will be there again, as well as Tasha and Larry Sharp. So tickets are still available to buy on those. There were some links that were shared, and there is also some tickets left for a coupon that was donated by a couple of donors, where if you use 40 FOR Liberty, so 40 for Liberty, whenever you check out, that takes $40 off of the ticket. So for the regular general admission axe throwing, that makes the ticket free. And then it substantially discounts the other 2 tickets. So if, funding is a little bit tight, but you still want to be able to participate and utilize that coupon, we'd love to have as many people show up as possible.
All right, thank you. And then there's also the OKLP Clay Shoot, which is Sunday, the 24th, 10 o'clock. And then if you're in your 20s, there's controversy because it was originally if you're in your 20s, okay, but it's 20s and 30s now for the bowling thing, which is going to be, I think it's November 6th. I didn't put the date on there, but November 6th in Tulsa. So, yeah, okay. Does anybody else have anything they need to announce? Or, okay, well, we will just let Natalie take it away.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys, for inviting me to jump and crash your Zoom call. So just to tell you a little bit about myself, for those of you who don't already know me. So I am quasi new to the Oklahoma Libertarian Party. Whenever I tried to get involved a few years ago, it was when things weren't quite organized enough yet. And so I was unfortunately not able to connect with local people, but I was able to connect with national. So I've been working with the national party for a while. I was actually the marketing director for Joe and Spike's presidential campaign last election. And so I got to meet a lot of really great people through that movement, and then therefore was able to become more involved within the state. So whenever it comes to why I'm kind of running, because typically I did not have any really thought process on running for governor this year. I actually had planned on trying to do a Senate race again and go that direction. But after visiting with everybody in the state Libertarian Party, because of my experience that I have throughout the state, not necessarily running as a candidate, we felt like it would be a really great opportunity for me to run on the governor's in the governor's race. So to tell you a little bit about myself history-wise, so I am a marketer and advertiser by trade. So I have been doing specifically digital marketing, but kind of a little bit of everything, traditional radio as well, for about 14 years now, all over the metro. I used to live in Ardmore, so I worked in that space for a while. And then I have also lived and worked up here as well. I'm very well respected and well known within that space. And then I've also been really involved with different philanthropy. So I'm currently on the associate board for Oklahoma Lawyers for Children. They're a group that essentially helps represent children in deprived child cases where children have been removed from the home. We also, last year, I was actually awarded the Judge Nan Patton Award, which is a pretty big award for my service to children. I've also been a coach for basketball and soccer through both the Y and Edmond Soccer Club for the last several years. And then I also have been helping out in non-official roles through multiple nonprofits across the state. So when it comes to, visiting with people and asking for money, I know I've really gotten pretty good at that. And so, it seemed like that transition to doing that same thing as a candidate has worked out pretty well for me. We are already, I think, about just less than $1,000 away from fundraising the most that any libertarian here in Oklahoma has ever raised for a gubernatorial election. So, and it's still 14 months away. So we're doing really well. We're right on track for where I want to be. And then when it comes to my platform, we're pretty much looking at primarily criminal justice reform. We are looking at, protecting the Second Amendment, with Biden kind of, putting in some different things in motions that don't necessarily benefit those who support the Second Amendment. So supporting that within our state, also pushing the 10th Amendment quite a bit. Obviously, I'm completely against government mandates and shutdowns. And so ensuring that that doesn't happen again, putting pressure. Stitt has liked to mention lots of times that he thinks it's ridiculous, but the fact that they haven't done anything legally that they have the ability to do has been a little bit disappointing. So in a nutshell, that's kind of how things are going right now. I welcome anybody to visit my website, which is electnataliebruno.com. I have some certain issues on there that I've already addressed, but I'm constantly adding to them because, as you know, everybody wants your opinion on everything, right? So I try to keep that up to date as possible. I also include all of the podcasts that I've done on there as well. One thing that I'm really excited about is the fact that typically as a alternate party, we struggle a little bit with getting media coverage. And I've been reached out to, in the last 2 days, I've gotten 3 different interview requests for this upcoming week. So I am going to be on 2 different radio stations. And also, one of them is in Ardmore, so KICM. I don't know if you guys are aware with that or not, and then another talk radio station in Tulsa that I cannot remember the station, but I have it written down. And then also the Black Wall Street Times. So I'm really excited about the kind of momentum that we're having as a group. And I'm really excited about the events that we have this upcoming weekend. And then if anybody has any questions or anything, I'll kind of open the floor up to anybody. A lot of you guys have already met before, so.
What do you think about the new, the proposed cannabis bills, or do you know what's going on with that? Because I don't know. Yeah,
so are you talking about the push for recreation or
yeah.
the psychedelics?
Well, there's that, and then there's, I guess, all these regulations are coming that are making things worse, as far as, and then there was something about counties are adding taxes and all kinds of stuff to make it as difficult as possible for the growers and the
and I actually this evening I'm going to be going to the bunker to visit with quite a few people because since I don't have like a business in that space, I'm kind of really relying on the growers and stuff to share information with me, which they kind of have. And it's crazy because it's almost, from what I'm understanding, it's pretty split from the people who are, wanting less regulation, which obviously that falls into our category as well. We want less regulation, but there's half of the cannabis group that's asking for more regulation. So it's really causing some rifts, within their own kind of community. And so I'm really looking forward to finding out actually more about that this evening. Outside of that, I'm really excited the fact that they are going to be putting recreation on the ballot. I'm hoping, unfortunately, I have a feeling that Stitt's going to try to shove it on the primary ballot or something like that. I'm really hoping that's not the case for my own benefit, as well as everybody else's, that they wait and put it on the November ballot, but it's probably not going to happen. But I'm fully supportive of, making sure that we get recreation. There are some other ideas that are being thrown around too, because of they want to still protect the medical cannabis community. So I know that they're looking at things on trying to get more tax breaks for those that are considered medical grade versus recreation grade. I mean, there's tons of stuff that they're kind of throwing around as ideas to kind of separate the two still and give an edge to those who are medical versus recreation. So I'm hoping to learn more this evening about all that's kind of happening, because there's a lot that's kind of getting thrown out there pretty quickly. And when you're not typically in that space like myself, it's kind of drinking from a fire hose. And so I'm hoping to have some more information to share. And I actually was planning on coming to the Pub W event. So hopefully I'll have some cool stuff to share with you guys then.
Hey, Natalie, this is Todd. Where do you see the biggest opportunity right now? Is it in Republican voters, Democrat voters, people who haven't voted in the past? And how are you addressing that opportunity?
That's a great question, Todd. So I am really fortunate that I have an opportunity right now to work with national, along with myself or with my team, national, and then also People for Liberty. So we're doing some micro message testing that we start this month. And so we're seeing that there's actually some small pockets of opportunity amongst all of those. So especially since Joy has announced the fact that she's running as a Democrat, that's going to help us dramatically, because we have a strong base of Democratic voters that are obviously pretty peeved and ticked off that she's running and changing. And the unfortunate thing is she's going to beat Connie. So there's an opportunity to catch those upset, aggravated Democrats to bring them on board. And then the same thing with the Republican side as well. So the Republicans, a lot of them are, proclaiming Stitt to be a rhino and not a real Republican, but the person that they have to kind of unseat him doesn't have really a chance of winning either. He has a very spotted negative past and things that we, do not believe that he's going to be able to unseat Stitt. Plus, I mean, it's kind of common. You can't compete with his money. And so there's going to be that strong group of Republican voters as well that we'll be able to pick off. So we're trying to customize ads that we're going to be running to those specific voter groups to try to pull those voters away after the primaries whenever they are in a situation where their person lost and we need to take those on. The same thing with the independent voters. As you posted about, Todd, the registration for the Democrats and Republicans is going down, and it's coming to Libertarian and Independent. So people are not happy. They want change. And so taking the haystack data that we were provided that shows us within our state, what are the top issues for independents, or what are the top issues for Republicans and Democrats and even Libertarians, and then customizing our messaging to meet them where they are. So that way we can, bring them and show them a home here within the Libertarian Party and the Libertarian movement.
You've been to some of the Oklahoma County jail protests, and I've seen you there at least once, and I've been to a few of them too. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I don't think people realize the situation and how bad it is. I didn't until I went to a few of those and talked to some people, but.
Yeah, so I've been there 3 different times now. It's kind of like it's the last one of the month is the one that I typically go to. They have them, I want to say almost every other week, but the official one they always share on Facebook is always the last Saturday of each month. So the jail, is the stuff that's going on with the jail or our prison system in general is just really, really, really sad. But specifically with the jail, what's happening is we have this facility that is over capacity of what it was intended to be used for. And that puts a problem into the fact that as things break down or as there are issues, there's not space to move people around and fix them. So it just gets worse and worse and worse. So we have situations where there are literally holes in the walls in between cells. So people are able to literally crawl from one cell to the other. We have situations where they're so understaffed that people are not able to get fed in a reasonable time. So we have people that are not getting their dinner until 1 o'clock in the morning. We have situations where people who are supposed to be, being let out are being put in a room to go through processing to leave. They get forgotten about because they don't have enough employees that are sitting in a room for 5, 6, 7 hours longer than they were supposed to, just so that they can, be let out of the facility. We have situations where there's bed bugs. They've tried to stick a Band-Aid on things where they're like, oh, well, we have these buildings that we put outside that we can, during the summer, the intense heat and kill them. But anybody that has any sort of pest control experience will tell you, because my husband, he was in pest control for a long time, and that you can't just get rid of bed bugs like that. I mean, you have to essentially take everybody's personal items, sheets, everything completely out of the room, spray it down, bring completely brand new things in. I mean, you have to go through quite the process to eliminate bed bugs. Healthcare checks. I mean, people who have said that they have like diabetes or situations where they need to have, their blood sugar tested and stuff are not getting it tested. And, I believe I think it was in June, we had more people die in jail in June by per capita than we did with people with COVID. I mean, it's a really, really bad, serious problem. And with us being in such a red state, everybody's so quick to say, oh, well, that's what they get for breaking the law, or what do they expect? It's supposed to be a hotel. A lot of the food that they're eating is, old bologna and bread. And I mean, and it's not an exaggeration. These things are actually really happening. When we're there, we get to talk to people as they're leaving the facility, and they're showing us all these bites on their skin from the bed bugs and different stuff. And, we hear from people who are, somebody was in the cell with them, and, they ended up, stroking out or, having an issue because of their blood sugar levels. And, a lot of these people, we like to think that they're all like murderers and rapists, and, they're not. A lot of times the ones that are there, they haven't even been charged with a crime yet. They're being held, they're people who are there for, not paying fines, DUIs. Like there's so many more people that are being held there than what we like to imagine that these criminals are that are in the jails. And so, they keep kind of passing the blame around, and nothing is really being done yet to take care of the problem. My suggestion is, we remove everybody that's there for victimless crimes, period. We could remove enough people from the prisons and the jails around the area to make space for the ones that were there. And we really need to rip the whole thing down with the amount of money that we would save, because we spend almost $17,000 per person per year to incarcerate. If we would just remove the people that don't need to be in the prisons, we would save enough money to not only, create a new jail, but, save money on top of that to where we could actually maybe hire some better qualified, better trained COs to run the facility. So it's really unfortunate. It's not just people making up stories. These are all real things that are happening. Anybody else got anything for me?
What would be one of your first dozen, if let's say you win the election, what would be the first dozen things that you want to get done?
Well, the first thing I would do is, we jokingly like to say audit everything. But I mean that full-heartedly. A lot of people don't realize we are one of the highest taxed states. We are actually taxed higher than California when you take into consideration all taxes. Yet we have, the worst schools, worst roads, so on and so forth. And so people don't realize how poorly we are spending money, government waste, all of those. A great example that I like to use is my own father-in-law. He has this creek that runs along the back of our property, and it has this huge dam that is accumulated. But the creek technically is, owned by, isn't owned by anybody, or I think it's the Corps of Engineers, whoever actually owns it. But anyways, so Logan County and Oklahoma County had been fighting back and forth on who was going to pay for it, whether they were going to split it or whatever. So in the meantime, he actually had gone and gotten some bids to find out what it would be to just clear it. And over multiple bids, the average was about $50,000 is what it's going to cost to go and clear out that dam. And the problem with it is because of where it's located, anytime it rains a lot, it floods those whole back roads around Waterloo and those areas back there in north of Edmond, into Guthrie. And so it is a community issue that it's fixed. Well, finally, after a year or so, they do have it budgeted to fix, but they found someone to do it for $250,000. That's how much they earmarked for it. So we had multiple bids that we were able to find that were $50,000, but yet somebody's buddy is getting paid $250,000 to clear a $50,000 log jam. And so you take that just one little tiny situation and multiply it across our state, who knows how much money is being completely wasted. So, digging into our budgeting, how we're doing our bid systems, and all of that as a whole is definitely the top of my priorities. I also want to start kind of unraveling some of the tax situations that we've kind of put on our state. So one of my pushes is I'd really like to do away with state income tax. That's a big push of mine. And the reason is other states have done it. We don't need it. The Republicans actually a few years ago had done some studies that showed that by removing the state income tax, it actually generates more money for the cities because of sales tax. And so that's a really great way to just kind of start slowly pulling away the layers of the onion, because, realistically, I can't just go into office and just say, no taxes and no this, like, that's not a realistic move. But what I can do is I can do just a few things that show people, hey, this is us moving towards a libertarian ideology, and this is how and why it would work. To where people start to say, okay, this makes sense, it's working. And then it's kind of like a slow process. So those are some of the first things that I would do. A lot of pressure on the criminal justice system, because obviously there's a lot of things that I personally can't go in and change myself. But obviously as governor, you have a lot of influence over those other entities. And if it's something that's important to the governor, then it's something that can be pushed forward and kind of be made a spotlight. So I would definitely kind of use that evil for good, I guess you could say, and make sure that some of those changes get taken care of.
Cool. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Your website, if you're a governor, you would try to do away with the state education. Can you talk a little bit about that and what the benefits of that would be?
Yes, that's a good question too. Okay, so the State Board of Education. So it has been shown that if we do away with the State Board of Education, I think that just right off the top, it saves us like $65 million or something along those lines. I can't remember exactly what the stat was, but just because, or just as we talk about from a national standpoint, Oklahoma itself is very different. We have a couple of metropolitan areas and lots of rural towns, and we cannot, have the same kind of rules and regulations for everybody. And as we're seeing more so now than ever, I think there's more of an appreciation for individual freedom and rights to the parents and rights to the individual schools. People are waking up more and being more involved with the school boards, with everything that's going on. And I, kind of showing people that if we do away with the State Board of Education and then, allow the individual school districts to make the decisions for themselves, I would like to say no to all federal money. It's crazy how many strings are attached to any federal dollars that we get when it comes to education. One thing that was brought up, I think, during the Jorgensen campaign is, for every dollar that we pay, by the time it goes back out and comes back into the schools, it's 40 cents to the dollar. And I believe that if we gave that, decisions back to the individual school districts to make the decisions as they feel necessary, for example, I always like to use an example of, dollars that are earmarked towards physical education. So, I live in Edmond, and Edmond Public Schools is a phenomenal school district. But the city itself, even, we have multiple YMCAs, tons of different rec programs. I mean, there are, and even scholarships for lower income. There are tons of opportunities for children to get involved from a physical education standpoint, right? So in a Edmond school district, they may not need all that funding for PE and stuff like that at elementary schools. They might decide that they want to use that for STEM or something like that. And they should be able to use that money as they see fit, because in a town like maybe Poto, they might not have YMCAs or, some of the physical education options that someone in Edmond might. So they might want to put more money into, sports and programs and stuff like that for the children in their school. And they just don't really have the flexibility, that they used to have in those areas. So I really feel that if we remove those extra layers of unnecessary oversight and allowed the school districts and the parents to make the choices on what their money goes to, that it would be a lot more beneficial, not only to the schools to have the control, but the students as well.
What do you think about secession? Do you think that's something we should be talking about?
I don't, because it's legally not possible. As people were kind of bringing it up, I was like, what do we have to do to kind of secede from you? So I did some Googling, and, with everything that happened in the Civil War, they actually had created within the system that a state would not be able to secede. Now, could we theoretically create something that would somehow allow that to happen? The masses break apart and, make it happen possibly. But realistically, I don't think that that's an option. They've even done multiple polls asking individuals if they actually would. And only, I think, a fourth of people said that they would actually want to secede. And so I really don't think that that's something that would happen. And I would hope that it wouldn't. I would just hope that, a lot of times I feel like the states have been lazy. Governors have been lazy. And they just kind of let the federal government make the rules and the laws for them, so that way they don't have to, instead of using their 10th Amendment rights of, anything that's outside of the Constitution, they get to run. And so I believe, though, that hopefully with everything that's going on, these states will start kind of taking that role seriously and realizing and holding the federal government accountable for the fact that they don't have as much oversight and reach as they like to portray that they do. And I would really like to see the states to take a lot of that power back and make those decisions for their people.
To accomplish what you just spoke about, to become free of the federal government's power, we will have to be free of their money. And Oklahoma is not in a good place in that way. Do you have any economic plans in the works on how to improve the economy in Oklahoma?
So that's something I've actually been kind of visiting with people about. So I do think that there are tons of opportunities that we're not taking, when it comes to using, industrial hemp, nuclear energy, bringing those kinds of establishments in. There's tons of things that are available, but the problem is, as we're seeing right now with the help wanted signs literally everywhere, it's in our unemployment rate is low. We do not have enough people to bring in more industry in some areas. So that's definitely something that I think that can happen. But it's not going to happen overnight. One of the first things we need to do is address the broadband situation that we have better infrastructure so we can bring in more people so that we can, create entities like those, like the industrial hemp and stuff that would allow us to be able to say, no, thank you. We don't need your federal government. We have, things in line that are producing our own revenue and our own money. So as I would love to see that happen, but you're absolutely right. We are not in a financial position to be able to do that right now. But that's definitely something that we could come up with a plan to get there. I'm not as well versed in that area myself, which is why I have multiple meetings coming up with some people who are experts in those fields. So that way they can kind of paint a picture for me on, okay, so if we were to realistically do this, what would that need to look like? So then that way I could actually put together a plan on, hey, so over the course of, 4 years, 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, if we go this route, this is how we can get there.
You said referenced building infrastructure, and I'm not really clear on what infrastructure you would be talking about. Could you tell me what that is?
Well, specifically our internet and broadband situation. So a lot of like our rural towns, they rely on satellite internet, which anybody who has had satellite internet knows that it is horrible. And so as technology changes and as we're trying to bring in, more people, more, job opportunities and stuff like that, we have to kind of address that issue.
I have a question, Natalie.
Yes, sir.
All right. I spend a lot of time in a gun shop and I hear everybody talking and it seems like everybody's just the only thing they're worried about is the Second Amendment. Mm-hmm. As long as we have the Second Amendment, we'll be all right in the long run. So, and all they're going to do is vote red in the next election because that's all they've done their whole life. So what could you say to them who's nervous about the Libertarian Party and doesn't know much about it? Could you tell them about not just keeping new laws from coming here, but also maybe repealing?
Yeah. So I am actually a member of the Oklahoma Second Amendment Association, and I've been trying to infiltrate slowly into that world and to show them that, there is nobody that's more pro-gun than a libertarian. There have been some things that have come up that have given me those opportunities. There was the bill that was signed this last May that had to do with basically allowing the fencing the outdoor events so that way they could make sure that no guns enter. And in exchange, they got some sort of half deal where they were able to carry in facilities that had alcohol, but as long as you weren't in the bar, like there was this whole bill that was passed. But my primary thing was I was focusing on the fact that, okay, so you're making it to where we're fencing in people and having a situation like Vegas that happens where you have these people that are unarmed and they're basically, it's like shooting into a hole, right? So I try to use little pieces of things like that to kind of show that there is no trading tit for tat on gun laws. Any gun law is against the Constitution and there should not be any of those in place, and just showing them that, everything with the ATF, trying to get to where we're a true, sanctuary state. We have come a good way. I like the fact that we have constitutional carry and stuff like that. So we're moving in the right direction, but showing them that, especially Stitt, for example, he signs a good amount of legislator, but he still is not as, two-way friendly as they like to think that he is. I've even made a couple of jokes with some of them where I'm like, hey, why don't we just have a shooting competition? Stitt and myself, I'm happy to go. I have a Wilshire gun membership will go over there and shoot, and whoever shoots best, can be your endorsement. Because from what I understand is I don't even think he owns but like a shotgun and never goes shooting or anything like that. Not that you have to, but not really understanding the fact of how much gun laws are issues. I have a lady that was in my inbox the other day who illegally bought a couple of parts for guns and didn't have them go through the appropriate channels, and so now her husband is looking at jail time. And that's kind of ridiculous. Of all the things that we should be throwing people in jail for, that should not be one of them. So it's just going to be kind of a process of kind of going back against the brainwash that they have that, oh, Republicans are the only pro-gun and anybody else isn't. It's just kind of just showing through example, being part of those different rallies and stuff that they have, and just showing them that, no, we are here and we have, better mindset on where we need to be 2A wise than they realize.
You should challenge Governor Stitt to a duel.
I know. I see. It's part of a joking, tongue-in-cheek thing that we have going on. So we want to. We're going to challenge him to a shooting competition to try to get the Oklahoma Second Amendment Association endorsement. Same thing for the Oklahoma Beer Association. Is I plan on jokingly challenging him to a drinking competition. I'm Irish and Russian, and so I have a pretty strong liver. So we'll see how that goes. But it's all it's more for fun and to get kind of some more eyeballs, on us. But we are legit going to ask him. And my thing is if he's for some crazy reason accepts, it's a win either way. So
since you're a marketer, if you were in charge of like the OKLP thing or LP National, what are some things you would do that you don't think you think they get in?
Oh gosh, this is going on the internet. No, okay. So I believe I'll address kind of our state first. I am so proud of how much better our OKLP is doing. When I tried to come on board a few years ago, I literally had messaged and tried to get involved and was basically, kind of told, oh, you're not libertarian enough for us. We don't want you here. Which when we're in a position like us, you don't really have the liberty to really turn away people. Like we want all the membership and all the people that we can, right? So it was really, offensive that it was like a cool kids club that I couldn't get involved with. So the fact that we are growing as much as we have been, and that the state has been doing as well as they have, I think we're doing fantastic. But I do feel like we are missing out on a couple of opportunities. One of which I do not think that we are pushing as much as we should be on getting new members and outreach. I do think that we need to be doing a better job of that, doing more tabling events, going out and building coalitions with other groups and and actively bringing registrations and getting people to change their registration. We're moving in the right direction, but I don't think we are anywhere close to where we should be in that regard. And I also feel like, continuing with the events and stuff that we've been doing is great. So many events that we've been putting out, and that's fantastic. But when we only have, a group of this many people, to pull from, they're not going to be as impactful as they can be unless we really start bringing in other people. Like I'm talking like, hey, every libertarian, you bring 2 people that are not libertarian, so we can talk to them and, show them that, this is the route that they want to go. I would really like to see that expansion more. And then from a national level, I would like to see them give more support to their candidates. I feel like they are very supportive verbally to help candidates, but when it comes down to actually doing the work to help the candidates, it's just not there. And that's coming from somebody who is obviously a candidate. And so I've had to physically reach everybody that's coming and helping this weekend. It has not been handed to me. I have had to go and call and talk to people and make those connections myself and get myself on the national page listed as a candidate and get myself, doing all these different things. We really need more support for our candidates and not put as many paper candidates out, because the more that they see that they're serious libertarian candidates and that we're winning and that we're doing a good job, that helps us in so many different ways and membership and everything else. So those are the things that I think that we could definitely be doing better. And then crafting the message to the people who are reading it. We've gotten better again with that. We're improving, but understanding that, especially from the national party, that if we want to be able to bring people in and change their voter registration from an R or a D or an independent to us, we have to meet them where they are and explain our ideology in a way that they can understand. Because, just like with, I say abortion as an example. Okay. So we are all over the place, even as libertarians, on an issue. But I know that if I'm speaking to a Republican, I know that if I say I'm pro-choice, they're immediately no longer listening. That is it. But if I say, well, I want there to be less abortions, and then they're like, oh, well, what do you mean by that? Then it at least allows us to have the conversation, which is, hey, we need to stop as much focusing on the end result, but let's talk about how we prevent those things from happening. And then it allows for that conversation instead of telling them an answer that's immediately going to shut off any opportunity to move further or talk further on the subject.
Hey, Natalie, Chuck here. I love your background. The banner is amazing. Just had a quick, yeah.
Just got it.
Yeah, very cool. Quick question. Do you have any debates coming up? Are you still going to debate Connie Johnson? And what are your plans going forward to maybe possibly debate on the national stage with Stitt?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer that in 3 parts. So one, so there was an entity that was trying to get Connie and I to debate. Connie declined, which is fine. So that on its own is not going to be happening. Now, there was a really funny situation, though. There was an Ignite Justice, which is a criminal justice reform group, had a rally over at the Capitol building. Gosh, it's probably been about 2-3 weeks ago, maybe a little bit longer, because how I remember time with as crazy I am is always off. But anyways, so I was invited to be a speaker, and I opened the event. Connie had one of her people reached out and asked if she could attend, but she said she wasn't going to be speaking. And then when she was there, she asked to speak. So she missed my portion because I opened it. And I got a lot of really great feedback on mine. But since she ended it, basically the points that she did bring up were identical to the things that I already said. And then she spent the rest of the time asking for money and donations. And it was really off-putting to a lot of people. There was a lot of Facebook chatter on the group as well as on her page about how all she did was copy what I said and then ask for money. So maybe that could be part of the reason why she decided that she wasn't going to debate me. But I am doing anything that I can to make sure that I do get that opportunity. And how I'm doing that is, one, I am reutilizing all of the Let Her Speak campaign materials and videography to kind of push that narrative and kind of push to the media that they should give me the opportunity to speak. On top of that, what I've also been doing, because I'm in marketing and advertising, I hold millions of dollars in my hand that goes to the Oklahoman and the broadcast stations and stuff like that because of my clients that I have. And so I know a lot of these, media people that make these decisions on a back of the house level. And so they know that I'm running. We've had conversations. And so I'm hoping that because of the fact that they do know on a business level, I handle so many things of theirs and handle so much of their ad budgets, that makes them kind of realize that they need to be a little bit more fair with their coverage, and that it gives me the opportunity to perhaps finally be invited to a debate that would be, with all of the candidates who are going to be on the ballots.
Sounds great. Thank you for answering.
Hey, Chuck. So Stitt was down here. Sorry to interrupt, Natalie, but Stitt was down here. I don't remember how long. Do you remember, Natalie? He was down here on his
about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago.
I had asked him if he could commit to a debate with other parties. I didn't necessarily say ours, and he said, to his words, I don't even know who else is on the
I think
ticket.
I saw that meme.
Yeah. That was me. So
that was you. That was so cool. I love that meme. That meme was fantastic. I'm like, yeah, man.
Yeah. So there was no commitment then. I don't know if that's changed, but that was that.
Good stuff. Cheers.
I will be excited for that opportunity, though, because I do enjoy a good debate.
Have you had a chance to talk to any of the other libertarian council members that we have for advice or tips on running or anything like that? People like Chris and Chad.
Yeah, so I actually have an advisory committee, and on that advisory committee is Chris Powell, Rex Lawhorn, Aaron Adams. I have Spike that's on there. I have Sam Goldstein, who helped run Donald Rainwater's campaign. I have a lot of people that have some great experience that I go to on a regular basis. And I ask them, like, how'd you handle this? What do you think about that? I have a ton of energy and I'm like, I want to hit all 77 counties. And Chris is like, you're not going to be able to do that. You're going to run yourself ragged. Here's some ideas and some tactics, and so I have been reaching out to all of them, and they have been giving me some fantastic advice. I have been given, or I have endorsements from all of them as well, which really means a lot to me. And I definitely, utilize all the people that I can. One of my favorite sayings is, if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. And so I try to surround myself with as some of the most knowledgeable, experienced libertarians that I can.
Yeah, that is a great looking backdrop. You need to recap that, because we're looking for something like that for the OKLP.
So this was cheap. So let me tell you, all right, so 2 tactics that I'm doing. So this, I had Kelsey Lyon design for me, who's a good friend of mine that helped me on, who worked with me on the campaign trail. And so I'm going to be, I'm putting this back here now because I'm like, I'm going to use it for everything, right? So I'm like, I'll put it behind for this. But I'm bringing it to the rally. I'm going to be using it on all of my tabling events. It's kind of like a back wall. And then I'm also bringing it to all of my indoor events to use for selfies. And this whole thing cost me like $80. I mean, and it's a really good vinyl. And so we'll be able to use it over and over and over and over and over again. And the other thing that I'm doing is, libertarians and other parties in general, we don't get as much focus because they think, oh, you guys don't raise any money, you're tiny, you have no chance, whatever, right? And so we have to give the perception that we are big, that we have money, that we have funding, and that we are somebody that is a contender, right? Because nobody wants to vote for somebody that they feel like isn't going to win or that has no chance. That's just the way it is. And so even for the rally, especially knowing that we have so many people coming, I have this, I have a pop-up, I have a beautiful table cover, I have palm cards, stickers, I got water bottle labels right here that people are coming over the Friday before and helping me rip off water bottle labels and putting these on here. I have 25 shirts that I ordered, and that we're going to have at least 10 people in Natalie Bruno t-shirts with volunteer on the back, voter registrations. I have a big, huge retractable banner. I mean, we are going to look extremely polished, professional, like we have money that we're put together. So that way people are going to see us and we're going to stand out. And I'm going to try to be at as many tabling events as possible, either my volunteers or I, with that same look, because based off of what I've seen so far, we visually are going to have more stuff put together than the other candidates. And so when people see that, then it's going to psychologically be like, oh, like this is a big candidate, and will actually give us more opportunity than if we just had like a little, like a sign and, some stickers, and then that was it. So I'm trying to make us look very polished, very well put together, and very well marketed. That also being said, if you guys want some bumper stickers or some stickers or shirts, you need to come to the rally on Saturday. Well, guys, thanks for inviting me and letting me crash. Like I said, I plan on trying to swing by Pub W tomorrow, just so I can meet some of you guys in person that I haven't already gotten to meet. Please visit my website. As always, donations are always well needed. You can donate on our website as well, whether it's $1 or $50, $2,900, which is the max. It will go to great use. I'm able to be extremely efficient with my money because of the fact that I am a marketer and advertiser. So my website, I built it. All of this stuff, the marketing materials, I have people that have donated their time, or I've had to spend a little bit of money on certain people. But we're able to do things super efficiently because of my background and the connections I have to get things printed and stuff. So $1 goes a lot further with me than it has with other candidates. And I'm really excited for the opportunity to represent the Libertarian Party in this governor's race.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on with us today. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. You guys have a great day.
Thank you for watching. Hope you liked it. If you're interested in finding out more about the Mises Caucus, please visit takehumanaction.com, and we'll see you next month.